Yo, it is Stocks and Bars, the Stock Market Hip Hop Podcast, where we talk about everything financial. And today from the Empower Empire, I have somebody that is one of my good friends, y'all. And we're going to discuss something as grown-ups, all right? We're going to talk about unlearning and relearning, because as men, as we grew up, there are a lot of things that we've learned that we've had to unlearn. And we're going to get into those, all right? So stick around and let's go. I got my clique ready to use the money they got from jobs, encouraging, teaching them that it's not so hard. I'm doing this, making investing pop. You law, it's X-tro. You tuning in to Stocks and Bars.
Yo, it's Stocks and Bars, and it is the Empower Empire striking back at you one more time. And I got somebody with you right now that I'm honored to have on the podcast. So check it. If you don't know, this is how I break down all of my people that come on. So this guy here, special guy, he is one of the original people that I met when I very first moved to Ohio. And
Indeed.
He showed love to me from the beginning. And to be quite honest, I was a little flaky in the beginning, right? Because that's just me and my standoffish nature. But besides all that, he's one of the original guys that still showed love to me and still to this day shows love to me. And they didn't even have to let me into their crew, but they did. And I appreciate it because, you know, I've been nomadic a lot of times, but he's one of the guys that said, yo, we show you love, man. And I watched this guy grow into the person that he is. He's always been an awesome person to hang around, just full of love, just easy to get around. Man, I can't tell you enough about this guy, man. Right now, he is at a stage in his life that he's probably never seen coming, but he worked so hard to get to it. And I seen him going in a direction. And I applaud this brother for being a stand-up guy, for being a pillar to black men, to friends, to everything, man. Yo, Stocks and Bars, welcome to the show. My guy, Randale Richmond, man. Yo, let's give it up for my guy, man.
What's good, Tuck, man? I didn't look at it as standoffish, man. I just look at it as cautious. Once you get to learn about a person, they journey, they background, you know what I mean? There's, you know, foundation to mannerisms, you know what I'm saying? I mean, with the type of lifestyle that your family led, serving this country, and, you know what I mean, decisions need to be made, man. You got to move around a little bit. So the way I looked at it, you was a hard worker, you was on your grind, you love hip hop, you love music, and you had an easy personality, man. But nobody worked harder than you, man. So I always appreciate about you. Plus, you had a hustle to you. So it was always love, man. Always will be.
Thank you, man. Yo, it's always been something that we've been working on in order to get this going. We got something else. You know, we're working on. We started about 2 years ago with getting into the housing market and stuff. But this is something different now where we on a podcast now, man. So I appreciate it, yo. All right. This topic, this is something that is near and dear to me because building yourself to be something different, all right? Because when we grew up, we didn't have people around us to give us the foundation, the examples that we now have, that we created for ourselves. And now we exhibit that to our children, to their friends, to our friends, anybody else that we network with. Now we are the representation of what we wanted in our lives back then. But to get there, yo, that's a massive step, man. You got a lot of things that you got to plug and connect that you didn't even know where it went. And to get to that point, man, it takes a lot of work. And I commend you, brother, for being able to do that, being able to show somebody like me, anybody else around you, and just be able to show love and show the connections. It's massive, man. So let's start off on here. Unlearn and relearn. All right. So I got four things that we're going to talk about here that we unlearn and relearn. And we're going to start with number one here. All right. So number one, the biggest thing ever for anybody is the mind. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
I said this in my last podcast. everything you've ever seen in life was in somebody else's mind. This
That's
computer, any building, the roads, everything was in somebody's mind before it came out of it. So you got to be able to make that strong in order to make everything else work. So what is something that you had to mentally unlearn and relearn in your life?
Yeah, everything dealing with toxicity in our lives, man. Like everything dealing with how we show up, whether it be negative or whether it be positive. You know what I mean? You know, Dame Lillard is an absolute monster on the court, but Dame has bars too, man. So as we continue to merge these whales, man, he said, what you feed the mind grows, choose wisely. You see what I'm saying? Like, so like that just tells you, like then it takes you back to, you can see it, you can believe it. You mean, I think, therefore I am, right? So rap ain't nothing but philosophy over beat. So I think, therefore I am, you know what I mean? It's like what you feed the mind grows, choose wisely.
Right.
Like it's all the same. Like, so, when we grew up, the way to show love is like, in those environments is negative jokes. It's negative energy. Like but you know what I mean? It's always weight to that negativity. You see what I mean? Like, so mentally, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's how do you continue to feed yourself more food? Like, and a lot of mine just came through rap music and hip hop. Now, it wasn't healthy when I was first listening to it. Like, let me tell you, I'm learning, from Too Short and the Ghetto Boys and all that from my uncles, at the time, my Uncle Walter, you know what I'm saying? But even through that, listening to NWA, I'm still listening to Ice Cube more than I'm listening to anybody else. So I was always searching for substance. Now I got a healthy balance of it. Like, yes, I listen to hip hop, I say now, but I need my fast food rap too. You see what I mean? Like, so it's just balance of that space in that place, man. So I think the biggest thing that I had to unlearn was that there was love in these negative type jokes. Like, there's love in somebody being the butt of the joke. There's love in one-upping someone, because it's always going to escalate, because the reason that is so, I think, funny, because there's a layer of the truth to it, especially when you're in those different types of environments. So the more you feed that, man, the more it just leads to negative energy, man. Like, so I'm not some big prude either, man. Jokes are jokes. Funny is funny. I'm not a political correct super guy. You know what I mean? Like, I listen to comedy still, and I enjoy the art that they find, man. But I would say, Dwayne, just knowing that the energy that you bring, the energy you give is what you manifest, that's enough. That's Big Sean, So I try to bring that positive, that energy of love, just mentally for what it's going to do for somebody. And that's the biggest thing I said I had to unlearn and relearn.
Yeah, man, that's a good one right there, because being able to spin anything negative into a positive, that's a talent.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I go. That's how you weave gold. They write stories about these and fables. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, sometimes it's literal, sometimes it's figurative. You know what I mean? Like, so that's where I show up. If it's getting to something like gossip and, something about a celebrity, what they did or didn't do and how they should have, I got no time for it. I have zero time for talking about negative snippets of other people's lives that we're assuming.
Right.
It's poison, boss. It's nothing but poison. And it's the one that in your subconscious will creep up and take over your life, man. And it becomes an anchor, you know what I'm saying? And then these thoughts manifest. What you feed manifests.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like, so, well, you may not think it's a big deal, but if you watch the negativity, listen to negativity, around negativity, guess what? It manifests.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm dodgy. I'm Barry Sanders with the negativity. You know what I mean? I don't want any of it. And that's all in your mind, man, because those are seeds that are planted that then grow.
Absolutely. And I'm going to piggyback on top of that, because mine is actually about diet that I had to unlearn and relearn mentally. Because I remember the food pyramid and what they taught us about, milk, meat, all that stuff. That's all things that I had to unlearn and relearn, because I learned about the body itself and its electric state and how it works and everything, and how foods, what you eat, you become. So not only is that with food, but like you said, with negativity. So what you consume on your phone, what you consume with your eyes, everything around you, you end up becoming. So you got to make sure that your diet is proper. And that means anything you feed yourself, period, it's got to nurture the soul. And it's got to be able to be good for your cells, man. And that's one thing that I had to completely unlearn and relearn, man. So we're on the same wave right there.
It starts there, man. What you feed the mind grows. Choose wisely.
Yeah.
And all things can't be all one way. You know what I mean? Too much of a healthy diet, too much of a strict diet with no protein and anything is a bad diet still. It's still balanced, but it's going to be more positive fuel that you need to feed into your mental, you know, because it's going to grow and it's going to show up when you react. Like when we get tired and our body fatigues throughout the day, what happens is what's innate. That shield that we've been building up as a filter, it starts to wane. So how you show up is how it's going to reveal in your weakest moments, because these are the habits and behaviors that you've built with your mental. So if you feed it good habits and you feed it bridging towards the positive of being realistic about the current state, but saying, hey, the only way out is through, then your mind is going to carry you where you need to be, even when it's fatigued. And the last thing that I'll say about the mind, man, is, you know, something you have to unlearn and relearn. It's like, listen, I can keep pushing through. I can keep figuring it out. Like when we go and we work out and we put that time in, the muscles fatigue. Well, why wouldn't our brain fatigue? Sometimes you got to find the time to shut it down. You know, to give it itself the time to re-heal and then to really navigate through all that positivity you've been feeding it throughout the day. Like, so you think about, you know, the last thing you saw before you go to bed. Well, sometimes that's what dictates the dreams when you're in REM sleep. So you might as well feed yourself good stuff, because then you watching the movie, man. I done met loved ones and lost ones throughout my dreams because I'm thinking about it in a positive mindset, in a positive manner. So now, you know, the mind is so powerful. Like, you know, it feels like if everything is real. And here's another thing. I lied. So here's the second. This is the last thing I said about the mind. You know, the mind is so powerful. I read this stuff about worry because I'm a worrier. I mean, that anxiety also drives me, but if it becomes too much, it can be an anchor and it could kill you. Right. You know, so when it becomes that type of thing, like worrying is doing nothing but borrowing trouble from the future that may never come to be. So as you borrow that from the future, your body physically feels as if that happened, as if that went on. So all that stress of a tough conversation or a difficult, you know what I mean, interaction or a conflict that you have to bring up, you know, you borrowing trust, you borrowing that worry from the future, and your mind is making it real, and your body begins to actually feel as if that stress actually took place. How powerful the mind is. So if you feed it positive thoughts, it'll do the same thing. It is the most powerful tool that we have, man. Feed it power.
Absolutely, man. The mind has no filter. It does not know the difference between what you are seeing and what you are thinking. It really doesn't. If you feed it the positivity, it will regurgitate that same thing back out, man. It has no choice because that's how it works. All right. So let's move on to the next one we got here. Number 2. All right. So we got to the mental part. Now let's get into the physical part. All right. So what is something that you had to physically unlearn and relearn?
Physically, I looked at it in a number of ways, man. You know, workout, anything in life is all about consistency. You know, it becomes, I need to do this big routine, or I need to, you know what I mean, get this amount of sleep or show up this way. All those things have layers of truth to them. And people have gone to school a long time scientifically to figure that out. You know what I mean? But physically, man, you have to react to your body and what's going to yield consistency. At the end of the day, that's what drives the breakthroughs. It's not one big day, one big week, one big month, one big year. It's a steady, constant routine, a consistency that gives us opportunity to refine our approach to physical health. So we're not going to be perfect off day one. Science and breakthroughs, and people are studying this day to day because it's so important. Like this lifestyle, this life is so fragile. You know, even if you max it out, you ain't getting 110 of these years. You see what I'm saying? Even if you max it out, like it ain't forever. It's finite. It's fragile. It's a short time span. So we every day are studying to try to chase immortality. That's what we're really doing if we're honest about it. You know, but if you stay consistent in your routine, once you find something that's a breakthrough, you don't have to go and start over from scratch. You can just adjust and move along the way. And I'll say the other thing about the physical unlearning and relearning is this idea about how it really teaches you about life. Only through what you grow, you have growing pains.
Right.
When you build muscle, what are you really doing? You're ripping up the old. Scar tissue comes in, it reforms, retransforms, and builds up the new. Now you have muscle.
Right.
Right. The body is telling us how we have to go through life. The body is telling us only through some pain, only through some adversity, as we get to the other side of it, do we grow? Mm-hmm. Do we grow? The body is a map to a metaphor of what life is, man. If we just pay attention to it, like everything that we learn about it. Like I remember thinking like Wolverine was such a cool mutant, such a cool, you call him anti-hero, whatever it may be. And it's like, man, look how awesome this is. This man's body heals itself. Man, Wolverine ain't nothing but us sped up. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like we get cut, our body runs to this part of the wound, patches it up, has some scar tissue, that stuff fades away, your skin back. You see what I'm saying? Like we are Wolverine sped up. You see what I'm saying? Superman. Like we are the manifestation for every fantasy we ever thought of. Superman. He gets his energy from the sun. Well, we know what vitamin D does to us when we're outside.
Right.
The most impenetrable, powerful person of all time gets his power from the same source that we do. Yeah. You know what I mean? If we do it in the right fashion, right? They just do it at a faster, accelerated rate. And one area I go into, Wayne, because we're on a grown man show here, I had to physically unlearn and relearn the most about sex. Because growing up, we ain't talk about it.
Right.
We're learning it from, magazines, you're learning it from videos, and you think that this is how you need to show up to be a partner to a woman. Boy, had no idea, because I didn't understand that this is a male-dominated world and everything was looked at through the lens of male domination.
Right.
I never understood physically what love was, what intimacy was, how to show up in that space together so it's an enjoyable experience, for both partners involved. Like that is like a big one, because it's not like it was talked about. So it's not talked about. And, based off of where we grew up, who do you have in a home to teach you? You know what I'm saying? Like, and then were their experience so toxic that they couldn't even teach you if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So that's been the biggest. And then in America, just like race, sex is taboo. So because it's not talked about, because it's taboo, you're going out and seeking out education from ill-fated sources.
Right.
And it's been one of the foundations of broken and irreparable relationships. So to me, that's the third one. That's probably the biggest one.
These is bars right here, man. I got like two for you right now. And one of them is love, right? The biggest one that I had to completely unlearn and relearn was love. Because in my structure, in my household, there's love. Everybody has love, right? Now, how I do it versus how it was done in my household is completely different, right? Because how I grew up versus how I'm raising my kids now, it's not the same. So I do more physically to show my children that they are loved, that I love them. It's more than what we know of as a man as the provider. That's it. That's what we were taught, that men are the providers. That's what love is. I got you something, and that's what we were taught. Okay. Oh yeah, he got that for me. Cool. That means he loves me. Nah, man. There's more to it. You got to make sure that you're there for moments, that they see you, that you are just showing that you're appreciative towards them, man. So how to love is the number one thing that I had to completely unlearn and relearn. And the second thing, shout out to my guy, Bakari, who was on here before, right? What you spoke about earlier about being finite. Time is finite for us, right? For the world, it's infinite. So in me, I may have a total of 10,000 heartbeats left. Okay, I don't even know. But at the end of the day, I got to make sure I use those correctly, right? I can't waste that on things like you said earlier, like gossip, negativity, pass me with that, man. I ain't got no time for that, man. I got 10,000 heartbeats. You know what I'm saying? If I know how many I got, I'm definitely going to take care of what I know. But because I don't, I'm absolutely going to make sure that I take care of it, because there are at least 3 little girls in my life that need those 10,000 from me, you know, and more. So those are the 2 things, man. Understanding that time is finite, and 2, how to love correctly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
That's real, because we think of, I remember, so my wife hit me to the 5 love languages, and you know, I'm always have been interested in how the brain works, the subconscious works, you know what I mean? Some Freudian type experiments. And, you know, we think, just like you said, well, this is like gifts. Well, if they love language ain't gifts, it ain't going to hit like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yours is, because you said, man, if someone gave me this gift, I would feel like X.
Yeah.
Theirs might be quality time. You know what I mean? It might be acts of kindness. You know what I mean? Like it might be touch, you know? So it's having an idea like, I'm doing this act, you know what I mean, because I want you to feel a certain way about it. Well, that's even conditional in and of itself. If it's coming from an unconditional place and space of love, it's given without expectation.
Right.
It's engaging without expectation, because it's for them. It doesn't matter what's said. It matters what's received. So we got to figure out how they receive that on the other end. Now, the tough part is if you've been building up a union together and you just now figuring that out, it's going to be hard to unweave some of those things. Because I remember hearing this quote from, I don't know if it was The Masters of Sex or Mad Men or one of those TV shows. And it talked about men and women. This is overgeneralization. So for you as man, female, whatever you identify as, take it how you need to take it. But he said, women live in the past, men live in the present. So there's some things that you built up, understand these things, having to unlearn them. Boy, some of those past things still come up. So y'all just got to figure out a way to work through that.
This is true, man. I think that's pretty accurate. All right. So we got the mental and we got the physicality again. All right. So the next one I got here, spiritually. All right. So what is something that you had to spiritually unlearn and relearn?
Yeah, church is not in man. You know what I'm saying? Like God is in man in a sense, but you know, it's not through them that you find that connection.
Right.
You know, like it could be, you know, it's creating the deities and the false prophets along the way, because these people are the orator of God. So it's not, listen, you got to find a preacher who you believe helps you grow in your spiritual journey, but they can't be the source of your spiritual journey.
Right.
Like they're just an orator, and they're here to break down what God's words are for you and how you need to carry that forward. And then, you know, it's like any process of building and creating something, man tends to put their stuff in it, and it causes just, you know, a lack of purity within it. So you have to find out how you're going to seek the message. Like they put their own spin to it. Dwayne, I would have thought that don't be a homosexual was number 2 of the 10 commandments. You know what I'm saying? Like coming up in America, in Black community and amongst Christianity. I would have thought, hey, it's got to be in top 10. It's got to be in God's 10. It's got to be right next to murder. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you would think in our society that adultery ain't on the top 10. You see what I'm saying? Like you would think these things, you know, but the way that man puts their piece into these spaces, and then they're just taught without us seeking to learn truly what it says, then we just take it for where the world is and where people's movements are. Now, me, I don't judge. That's not my job. It's God's job. You know what I mean? Come to find out, the top thing that he asked for us was to love each other.
That's it. Just love,
That's
man.
the one.
Yeah.
Out the gate. And we like, but no, not them.
Not
you
them.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, not them, not blacks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, so around spirituality, around religion, you know, I think the biggest thing to unlearn was what truly is important to God based off of what he put in wax, not what society's desires are for maybe some of their own insecurities or past experiences, because you don't even know where that exactly came from in this space. I'm not saying one should do one thing or another. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is find the source of your own source, and these people are here to help guide and educate. That journey is between you and the ultimate spiritual being. So you need to find your space and how you show up with that consistency and that truth every day. But if you start with love, I think you got a good chance.
Right. All right. That's deep right there, brother. Well, I could piggyback off of that too. All right. So one thing I had to spiritually unlearn and relearn. So growing up in church and all of that, it was to a point where I started to relearn about what is God, right? The Bible has taught us that God is made in the likeness of man. All right. So to me, what I unlearned and relearned is that God is in all of us, right? So if he's in all of us, then we in ourselves need to be able to get in tune with ourselves. All right. So we need to do some practices that cleanse the mind, cleanse the heart, all of that, and make sure that your temple is clean. So I took it upon myself to learn more about yoga, stuff like that helps you mentally get in tune with your energies. All right. And that's one thing that church doesn't teach you, right? Because it's all about spirituality as far as that is concerned. But if God is made in the image of man and we are living, then we need to make sure that we're clean. And I feel like that everybody needs to make sure that they get in tap with themselves so they know how to reset themselves, control their emotions, stuff like that. So you can be loving, like we just said, and don't get, misguided very easily because you don't have a clean source of energy, period. So that's one thing that I had to completely unlearn and relearn. All right.
Yeah. Listen, it's bars. It's absolute bars, man. Just stripping it down, man. What's important to God that you put on wax? Like these scriptures ain't changed. Like our interpretation as a grand and general society has dictated us to believe that they're reorganized, reprioritized, but they're not. You know what I mean? Like, so as you dive in there, and that's part of knowing thyself as well. It starts there, because if you don't know yourself, how you gonna refine information that's coming in when you only projecting your representative to everyone, not even who you truly are. You know what I mean? Like, so your representative getting the information. What that mean to you if you don't even know who you are? You
ain't even getting it.
Now, you know what I'm saying? It's not even touching foundation. And like anything else that you ever build in life, if it has a flimsy foundation, it'll crumble because it only gets more unstable the higher you go. So your foundation has to be the strongest rock, and your foundation has to be your individual personal relationship with your God. Absolutely. I know who my God is, but it has to be your foundation. And then now when the information coming in, you're refining it on sturdy foundation.
Right. All right. So we got one more question on this one. All right. So on the Unlearn and Relearn episode, here we go. All right. So we did the mental, physical, spiritual, and now we're going to go into one of my favorite ones, financial. All right. Yeah. So what is something that you had to financially unlearn and relearn?
Yeah, I think I've never really been a whole take a look at, people left and right, what they got going on in comparison. Dwayne, we ain't had shit going up for real. So how's I don't be doing all the comparisons? We disappointed every day. You know what I mean? So it's really just focusing on the blessings that you have. We always had joy. My mom did an amazing job with that, So that was something that was always there. And, we had a rough financial environment. I grew up on welfare. You see what I'm saying? Like, I'm from the days when we was trading penny candy, just so we can get 90 cents back on the dollar so we can travel on the bus. You know what I mean? Like, that's how we was flipping food stamps. I did statute of limitations. Jay-Z says it's 10 years. So I think it's okay to put that on wax right here.
We're good now. Yeah.
Like
Rico can't get you.
That's right. Just to try to get some other type of currency to kind of deal with, But one thing I was always good was saving my money and, kind of figure out what I want to do with it. Now, that's one thing. Saving your money is one thing, but you need to have other sources of income. You was taught that in our time, you get up, You get older, you get a high school degree, maybe you get an undergrad degree, master's wasn't the thought. You know what I mean? Then you can get a job, this job will pay you money. You'll be able to get the house you want, the picket fence you want pets, you have those. How many kids you want? 3 to 5, have at it. Wife can stay at home, you solid, Gucci, ready to go. That's the dream, that's the American dream. Everyone else been able to get it. Well, except for us. We were X'd out of that through redlining and what they were doing with loans, et cetera, et cetera. That's for a different podcast day.
Yeah.
But this is what you was told, right? You know, then you get to this point, and we live in a stage where both parents have to work. Childcare might make that a wash. So what type of family, what type of life do you want to build? So then now you got to figure out this idea about generational wealth and what that means. So once I began to crystallize on that thought, every day that I live is to build the best family that I can build based on what my role is for our family, but also with the idea that I need to create the best environment possible so that my kids can flourish academically, emotionally, spiritually, socially, so then they can maximize what they then get out of this world. It's my job now for them to stand upon the shoulders that my wife and I build, for them now to take their generation of Richmonds to a whole new ascension, because I have more access than what my ancestors had. You know, like for me, I'm the first one in my family, you know what I mean, to make it past the 11th grade, you know what I mean? Like, let alone undergraduate degree, let alone master's degree. You see what I'm saying? But heck, before that, my mom's mom didn't make it, I don't think much through middle school, you know what I mean? A little bit after that. So she took it further than that. And it's not because these are bad people. This is situational poverty.
Right.
Once I learned that message, that phrase and that definition, it helped me understand better. So now that God's let me punch through the roof about where I'm at now, he chose. So now it's incumbent upon me to build a foundation that our kids will be right.
Right.
I mean, not just based off of what we leave behind, which is the game of generational wealth. I mean, but also what they have from the environment of education and access to it. And then what we pour in them every day, what they're going to become. In terms of tangibly, the things are, nothing appreciates like brick and mortar. So at the end of the day, people are nervous about the stock market and all that stuff. You know what they're not nervous about? The finite amount of land that people can build lives on.
Yeah.
Because one thing has appreciated exponentially over time, and it's been within housing.
Right.
And this is what we were restricted from the beginning. Before Lincoln was murdered, that's what we were going to get out of the kidnapping, enslaving of African Americans. One of the things I wanted to go look it up when we were going to get land. I never knew where 40 acres and a mule came from. It was really an article that was written that was supposed to happen. You know why? Because those forefathers understood the power of brick and mortar and land.
Right.
They got it. And it's what they kept us restricted from up until 1960s, 1970s. And even still now, in terms of the loan practices that are out there for people who are Black and brown.
So
this is the way forward.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In terms of brick and mortar. I used to think I'll never own a house again. I'll just rent because I need to be mobile. No, what I was doing was let someone else build wealth off of my loan dollars.
Yep.
You know, like, so for me, that's the most. And then now I got 3 different areas. I got, you know, in terms of, you know, working in higher education and at a state entity, you know, the first, I did an alternative retirement plan and very aggressive in my earlier years. When I went out and got a job in Virginia higher education, I flipped it to a different account. And now that I'm back here in Ohio, I'm in the Ohio one, the Oprah's account. It's diversified amongst all levels. And now we're doing a set, like you said, Tuck, a one-off with a rental that a house that we're all putting together. It's just different ways that we're investing more. Now, the bad investment I got is my shoe collection. You know what I mean? But maybe I got a couple of those that's going to hit pretty good. You know what I mean? But outside of that brings me mental relief. So that still serves as a decent investment. And when Ramon gets in my shoes, and that's going to happen sooner than later, you know what I mean? Listen, he's going to come out with bangers. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing that I would say that I had to unlearn and relearn, how to make your money work for you.
Man, you hit a lot of different topics on that one. That's what's good. This is all what we're supposed to do, man. Stocks and Bards is about learning, because this is stuff that I wish I knew before. And because I know it now, I got to make sure I pass that baton down. You know, my main listener is younger than me, which is dope, because I look at myself as somebody who's getting older, but the person who listens to me is like 22, 23, and that's what's up, because that's who I want to talk to. I want you to know all the mistakes that I made or that I wasn't aware that I was making, and that you ain't got to do that, man. It's already been done.
Yeah,
like we told you, sell drugs. Yeah. Nah, Ho did that.
Ho did that. So hopefully you have to go through that.
Right.
It's just understanding what it was. There's this book, this thing called The Alchemist, man. And part of it was talking about, you know what I mean, man can never, you know what I mean, know the future, or like haven't found a mechanism to go to the future so they can learn what they should be doing in the present. But man can learn about the future by instead going back to the past,
right,
and going back to those who lived that past. So when we talk to our elders, listen to our elders, in a sense, we're learning about the things that happened over their span. And if they did the same thing, they learned what happened in the span from their elders. They pass that knowledge along to you. You begin to see that if you forget history, you're doomed to repeat it. Mm-hmm. So there's some things within that historical context that you can now identify what the future will be based off of these said principles. Now you just built yourself a time machine and you don't went to the future.
Right.
That's how you see the future. Right. So that's the bars and wisdom of the elders who've been on these turf a little bit longer than us.
That's what's up, man. All right. So my financial unlearn and relearn is, you remember, bro, I used to have like 3 jobs, right? At any point in time, I'm constantly.
So what I loved about you, though, the grind, the hustle, listen, man, like, and you would still come chill with us. You know what I mean? Like you had that Kobe work ethic. So that was still always a good thing. I know where you're going, but that's still a very good trait.
Yeah, it's a solid trait within parameters, but we about to get into that, right? So I had to learn that no matter how hard I worked, I was never going to make more money than me not working. And what I mean by that is I got to put my money to work, not myself to work. I had to learn how to use that capital that I had and put it to work, so I don't have to work 3 jobs or feel like that I need to work 3 jobs in order to prove to myself or anybody else around me that I'm a hard worker or whatever. All I need is enough capital saved up, putting it to work and let it get the return. And then that would set me straight. If I knew that earlier, bro, I would have been kicking a little bit more. But I put a lot of my time and effort into energies of getting myself into position the best way that I knew how, which was getting a job. And I had as many as I could in order to help feed that monster. And I'm glad I did it. But at the same time, if I wish I could tell somebody else who's in that same stage, like, if you doing well enough, park your money over here. All right. That way, when you get to where I'm at right now, you're good. You really ain't got to do too much, So
you got to hit them with some truth, though, Tug. It might be passive income, but it ain't passive effort.
No,
it's still a job.
It still
that
is.
One just happens to be your job for you, and you're the captain, CEO, and the grand investor, the grand reaper of all funds as well. Yeah. It's still a grind, man, and it's still some ebb and flows to the journey in that sense. You're right, in the sense that if you could have invested that time to grow your own enterprise, that would have felt a little bit better at this moment. But there are no mistakes in life, so I venture to look at it in a sense that some of those industries that you were able to see the inner workings of, have helped you. Now, I know for a fact that some of those people and places and spaces that you've been are now your clientele, and receivers of your knowledge base. So, it's all a part of a ultimate grand scheme. And without that journey, there is no podcast. So, ultimately, you see what I'm saying? Like, it's all for a greater purpose, greater ripple in time. I feel like Dr. Strange out there looking at all the possibilities. And this is the one, that leads to grand success, man. So that work ethic has always been real. You just applied to a space that was feeding yourself first.
Right. Yeah, man. So those are the 4 things that we had to unlearn and relearn. And I challenge anybody who's listening to this, take some time out, man. There's a lot of things that we have been taught that aren't necessarily the best practices anymore, okay? That might have worked in 85. That's not going to work in 2022. And it's our turn to use this tool that they gave everybody. Everybody's got one of these, all right? It's the best tool in the world. You have a computer at your hands to look at anything and find the information that's going to feed you what you need to know. And the algorithms that are built in this are built for you to continue to get that same information. So if you type in negative information, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get more negativity fed to you. If you do the opposite, then this phone is going to feed you more than you'll ever know that can come to you, man. So use this wisely. They count on you to use this phone ridiculously. They want you to type in nonsense and track you and do all sorts of stuff. But anyway, make sure that you do good for yourself, all right?
Yeah, so, and unfortunately for Tuck, he got the second best version that they have of that said device called a phone, because it's not that Apple product. You know what I mean? But nonetheless, they all work the same. You know what I mean? Like his might just be a little slower and choppier. But nonetheless, we all get there. Patience is a virtue.
Shots fired.
It's all for their money, though. The more beef goes between their products, man, the better it does for them. That's all it is.
Man, I'm telling you, I swear, if we took a trip overseas, there's probably one factory right now making all of these phones.
Facts.
And we sit here talking about, nah, mine's better. And they over there like...
That's right. Yeah, before we get out of here on this one, man, you see how they basically blood encrypted the whole phone genre? Like, so if you're an iPhone product user, and you see, oh man, when we got iPhones, we use other iPhones, it comes through all blue. And man, like you got little, emojis and, what they call that, reactions that go on the different posts. Yeah. But oh man, somebody in that joint got an Android and it come back green. Oh man, look at this green on here. Then they, then you put a reaction on a different post. It's posted again. It makes it seem like a virus, right? But they do it with colors. You know what I mean? Because you can understand things are opposite when it's simplified. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, well, we're all together. We're all in one tribe because we're all blue. You know what I mean? Oh, this is an outsider because they're not all blue like that because they don't come from the foundation of the phone we got. And then you start to have the people go back at it, man. Yeah. In a way, it's genius, but in a way, it's just another way to pit people against each other. Yeah, and it becomes a sheep and horde mentality. Group thing. But no, you really should get on this iPhone, dog. I ain't texting you. That's why we live on the box. That saved our relationship getting throughout this turf war of Apple and Android.
Yeah, man. They'll try to divide and conquer as many ways as they possibly can. And that's another way. But Android's better. Yo, I appreciate you, brother. I got much love for you and your family, man. And before we get out of here, yo, let me tell you something else about my guy, right? This is the only guy in the world that can make trips happen till about 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning at any point in time. And check it. We'll talk hip hop the whole time, right? We'll sit there and we'll break down verses and beats. All of it. The whole nine, man. So I can't let you get away without telling me what you're listening to right now, what you breaking down, all that stuff, man. I seen your post with Sci-Hi, and
oh, man.
Besides Sci-Hi, we can have a whole nother podcast about rappers. We can do that.
Randale Young is a different human being, so slept on. But right now, man, I'm listening to what people are sleeping on, and that's okay for them. Listen, man, that Drake album is a live album. And I get why people can't vibe with it. So I don't convince people on what's hot no more. That's not my job, but I'm not a techno guy, but the EDM dance music with the hip hop soul to it and R&B soul to it, me and my family with the kids in the car with the Jeep with the top down, it doesn't have the curse words. The content's good and they like to dance to it. I can play it anywhere, everywhere, at all time, anytime. And it's going to bring some good energy, man. I'm not saying this is his best vocal album. I'm not saying that. Listen, and I don't even rock with techno, but this is the world music that he tapped into. Why do you think Beyonce came out right with a song just like that? Yeah. These people are knowing more where music is at than we ever gonna know. We just get the outputs. You see what I'm saying? Like, then we got the nerve to judge, like they just showed up and thought of something. No, man, they know where the vibe is going.
They know what they doing,
They know where the vibe is changing. If the world of music didn't change, you never would have had rock and roll. You never would have had rap music. Right. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way that the ebb and flows is what music is ever living, ever evolving, ever changing. Just like the other greatest sounds in the world was a discovery. You see what I mean? The thing. So I'm vibing with that. Always in the eardrum is my man Currency, the hospital, at all times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Currency
Lifestyle rap,
on.
spring cleaning too. You know what I mean? Just dropped probably about 2 weeks ago or so. So that's always in the eardrums because like the way that he taps into some of the soul music from when my mom was young and her mom was young, you know, and then like finds a way to get him over beats. Anytime he with an Alchemist beat, it's just going to be ridiculously sick. It's
right.
good music for your soul, man. So that's my lifestyle rap in music. Now, like I said, you got to have some fast food rap in there. And Key Glock is a guy for me. And Moneybagg Yo, them two are my fast food rap people out the game. My youngin' in the game is when I'm really trying to, now this is ignorant turn up, Nardo Wick. You know, like, so like Nardo, man, like, and I get why the kids like him. You see what I'm saying? But he's got some real stuff going. My other, like, long-standing fast food rap, anytime 21 Savage is on the track, you know it's going to be hot. You know what I mean? So that is for me.
Slide in my playlist too.
He's my Gucci Mane of this era. Like, I'm gonna just ride with him, man, because his music makes sense to me and makes sense to my ears. But like the most plays on my phone over the past month has been, Drake's album. You know, so that's been the main one. You know, and then a guy who's I'll give an underrated rapper. You know what I mean? Because he's my guy. He is underrated. He don't get the love. I'll give you a 2 for 2, man. It's Big Sean and Big Crit. Those two side by side, especially Big Sean. He's untapped into his 5th, 4th, 7th, 18th eye. You know what I mean?
Man,
like Big Sean is spiritually sound, and the information that he's spitting out to people is foundationally building and growing, man. So that's a buckshot, but I try to give you different categories in which I receive this music, man. But Key Glock and Moneybagg Yo, man, that's when I'm in the gym. Like it's going down with them two in the gym.
All right. Yeah, that kind of builds along what we've been talking about as far as growth is concerned, right? Because the Drake album, right? A lot of people weren't feeling it because it wasn't something that he's done in the past, right? Everybody wants that fed, but Drake is beyond that. He's already conquered that, right? There's no room for him to grow in that space anymore. So he's got to challenge himself and do something differently to get to different people. Can't keep talking to the same 10 people all the time, right?
And when you listen to it, he understands. I think that's probably why he named it. Honestly, never mind. He thought he was about to explain it to you and what he was doing with this album. He was like, honestly, you know what? Never mind. You're either going to get it or you won't. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have that on no confirmation. But as I think about it, like, I can see myself, if you get to that era or that stage of music,
level, yeah.
It's like, I know, and he's been getting criticism from day one.
Yeah.
And he's did nothing but push the industry forward.
Right.
So I could see him getting to this one and be like, you know what? Honestly, never mind. You know what I mean? I'm not even going to explain it. They'll just see. You know what I'm saying? And like, again, after I give every album at least 3 spins. 5 is how I judge them, off of 5 spins. By the time I got to spin 3, I'm like, hey man, I rock with this. You know, and then now it's like, I was playing it earlier today. Like I rock with it, man. It's a good vibe.
Yeah. Thank you again, brother, for taking the time out, man. I appreciate you. I love you, man. Everything that you ever want in your life, I hope you attain it. If there's any way that I can help you get it, just let me know, and I'll be that vessel. You know it, man. Just let me know.
Yeah. All love, man. Love you too. We don't say it enough. I love you.
Right.
We don't say it enough. Again, that's another toxic thing that we were taught as men, and how to show up with our feelings and say to another man that you love them.
Right.
You know, I'm 40 now. So at the age of seeing people my age die and pass who were close, and, you know, we live this world, and it's something to like, you know, what would one thing you would tell a person you can meet if you knew tomorrow was going to be their last day on earth? So I just try to show up every day. I love you, man. I love your grind. I love how you're trying to break a mold, stay steadfast in it, confident in it, and dutiful in it, because it's all for a greater purpose.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And you know, anytime, man, we got you. And then anytime before we leave here, you know, we got the bars.
Yeah, Randale. We used to ride out all the time, man, listening to something like this. This takes me back. Yo, is unlearn and relearn. My thoughts as a child ain't the same as an adult. What I know now is what I gained as a result from all the pain that I endured, from the flame I was forged. I could have gone mad and could have changed into the Hulk, but I chose the higher path. So this pavement I walk, it came with a cost. All I needed from you is an exchange of your thoughts. Yo, I'ma teach the culture one rhyme at a time. Yo, like I told you, buy stock. Yeah, I did that. So hopefully you will go through that. The world listens to hip hop and everything that artists say to do. That's why out my mouth only positive things I say to you. I'm like Pac when he had the gun. Know what he's saying to you? So serious about finances, ain't never in the playing mood. Teaching you how to use your money is the greatest tool, because I got tired of the perception we're the greatest fools. Stocks and bars. Stocks and bars. Stocks and bars. Stocks and bars.